Present.
Ellen Mark, present. Okay, thank you. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not. So we're going to discuss, this is our second forum to discuss the RTF. We had very little.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the volume here.
All right.
Let's show it up from.
Yeah, you want to start our slides. So this is the second of our public meetings to discuss the RTF approvals and potential establishment. Prize funds. Someone's.
Yeah, it's echoing. They're both meeting.
Yeah. So, what is the next slide? So, next slide, please.
Bear with me for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked IT to do this.
So, here we go. And the enterprise fund. In every other town department that is not an enterprise fund goes into the general fund. Really 1% of the entire, so it gets a very small portion of the revenue that's generated there. Go ahead, Lee.
The 61%, is that a state role or a town role?
I'll defer to Ellen.
Yeah, so that's part of the financial policy set by the town in 2012, and it's 61% of new revenue. It's not 61% of the tax levy.
Nothing to do with the state at all.
Has nothing to do, it, correct.
Town. At one point, nobody said state rules, no state rules. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see.
So based on that split, if you think of, the RTF has been managed under DPW for 35 years, and markets up and downs, a lot of volatility and changes, but at its inception, it was a pay-as-you-throw system where you buy trash bags and your trash bag is subsidizing what you're disposing of. Today, that roll of trash bag that costs $20, only 1% of that is going back to the RTF. So 20 cents of your $20 is going to the RTF, and everything, the rest of it, of that $20 is going to support the schools, police, fire, and the rest of the town operations. In an enterprise fund, that $20 is truly a pay-as-you-throw when it goes into the RTF budget to support the RTF operation. This is similar to water and sewer. Those are our other two big enterprise departments. There are other smaller enterprise living funds for sports, school sports, and other activities, but this would be the third enterprise fund or department. So is this third slide?
That's a 3. Third.
All right, so just comparing with other local communities. Those with the RTF at a beach, so Situate has their fee is $140 for a sticker, $35 for a beach, for a total of $175 for both RTF at the beach. Hanover does not have a beach, but their RTF sticker is $345. Plymouth, who has a beach and an RTF, it's $190 for the RTF, and the beach is $70. Duxbury is $105 for RTF and $120 for the beach. And what we're proposing, which is a comprehensive sticker, RTF and beach, is $150. Up from 75 for the first vehicle. Second vehicle would be 75. Senior, the senior rate would go from $30 to $60 for the first vehicle, and then the second vehicle would be some $30. And every vehicle thereafter, you know. So we're still competitive with what we're offering based on some of the fees in our areas. Go ahead.
This would only be for Cohasset residents, unlike the Sandy Beach stickers or anything, we wouldn't be allowing non-paying people.
Correct. Yeah, so we'll get into something. There was a proposal or a pilot program where because we have a permit that allows for a lot more tonnage of disposal through our facility that we don't use,
Right,
and selling some out of town stickers to get that extra revenue to support the operation. But that would just be an RTF sticker only, not a beach access sticker,
and only commercial or?
just residential.
Okay.
Just residential blue bags, no commercial. We can't support the commercial haulings right now without making major modifications on, tipping areas, et cetera. Next slide, please. And before I get into the fees, I should say, so the vote at town meeting is really just a vote on whether we create the enterprise fund or whether we keep it in the general fund. The fees will need to go up regardless to support the operation. And those fees will be voted on by the select board as they are, it's under their purview. So we're only presenting fees here, just so it's fully transparent on what people can expect to pay. But the vote at town meeting is not a vote. You know, if you don't vote for enterprise fund, you're not getting higher fees. The fees they're independent. We're just showing here what our actual costs are and what we need to charge for a fee to support disposal, plus a very modest amount more for the capital improvements and such in the future. So just going down to the stickers, we talked about 150 for the first sticker, 75 for the second sticker. Seniors are 60 for the first sticker, 30 for the second. The 33-gallon bag, this is the big bag. We're proposing to go from $2 to $4. And if you look at the third to the right column, that's based on weight. Basically, our disposal cost comes down to $250 to $350 based on how much is packed in there. And generally, people don't want to throw away an empty blue bag, so it's pretty packed. So it's $4 would cover that cost. The scale is remaining the same at 15 cents per pound. Upholstered furniture would go from $10 to $20 because we're currently paying about $16 to $20 to dispose of those items. The 16-gallon small bag would go from $1 to $2, and that's to support the range of our costs, which is basically $1.05 to $1.75 to dispose of that. Rugs would remain the same at $10. Box springs and mattresses would both go from $40 to $45 for handling. And it's $40 for us to dispose of them. TVs will go from $10 to $20. Currently, we're being charged $14 to $20 for those items. Propane tanks remain the same at $5. Monitors would go from $10 to $15 just to cover our costs. Again, mattresses we talked about. Tires without a rim, $5. That's still the same. Tires on the rim at $20, remaining the same. And appliances would go from $10 to $15. So those are our proposed fees. But again, I just want to emphasize, it's not, the vote is not to vote on these fees or anything like that. It'll be.
Question, pardon me, what about the oil? I tried to drop up some oil the other day for my lawnmower.
Yeah.
And they told me they're not taking it anymore.
No, it's a good question.
Oil at WD 4010, thank you.
Yeah, we're not taking it currently, but we will be taking it. So the oil container got incinerated in the building, and we're We're purchasing a new 300 gallon,
So
self-contained.
that got delivered, we took, I think it's a 500 gallon double walled steel container, it's on site. We're just waiting, the temporary office trailer was removed about a week ago, so we have a 20 by 20 pad. We'll put up there, the permit was already issued to the fire department, the chief said, when we're ready, they'll come inspect it, we'll be able to take it, hopefully another week or so.
So thank you. So did we do the right thing by putting them in the plastic oil cans that come in? I put them back in there and then I bring them to the.
Yeah, that's
company.
fine.
That's,
So,
How should we bring it?
great question. A lot of folks will bring them in gallon milk containers or the laundry containers, the plastic, because hopefully once we dispose of the oil,
right.
we want to try to somehow rinse it and clean it and either dispose it in the plastic container, we'll have to go as demo. Will not be a self-serve option though, you'll have to see an
You'll
attendant.
collect the containers.
Yeah, you bring it in, we'll dispose of
So we-
it. Put it into it.
Okay, thank you.
But before we have people talk, could they identify
Sorry
themselves?
about that.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay, and.
No, I should have done that
For
too.
the speakers.
Good
they
point.
just-
Lee Howard, trusted truck. Yes.
Thank you so much.
So Brian Joyce, Director of Public Works, and Frank
Frank Markey,
Marchioni,
operations manager.
who's the operations manager of the RTF. Yes,
George Baumgarten, 264 staff. Looking at the per unit prices. My assumption is the 33 gallon bags and the 16 gallon bags are basically, there's thousands of those sold a year. Are they the sort of predominant fee generator out of, I mean, do you have a range of how many 33 gallon bags? I guess at 10 per package are sold per year.
yes, we have those, I don't have them off the top of my head, but yes, so I would say the biggest revenue generators are our sticker sales and our bag sales. We do have obviously a bag cost for generating the bags, I don't know, it's offhand, but it's 41 times.
So the cost of the from the manufacturers about say 40 cents.
Per bag.
40 cents, that's what it costs the town. So if you take that cost and then there's three main components, the disposal of the per unit, and that's probably the best measure that we have right now, is the 33 gallon and the 16 gallon. So when you take your disposal cost, your transportation fee, and then just that. I only factored in one of the components, that's the backhoe. Because we put about 6 hours or so per trailer. Depending on the weight, from 30 to 35 pounds, out the door, that bag costs you, the town, $3.50. Those are real numbers based on what we're paying right now.
And the backhoes for compaction, so we get more tonnage per haul.
Thank you.
So airbags and Situate's bags are basically the same. Do we partner in some way to get a better cost for a blue bag when we're buying them, because it's maybe the same manufacturer, except they say Situate on one, Cohasset on the.
Yeah,
They're different colors.
they are different colors,
Well,
but
yeah, a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but it's, it's the same, Waste Zero is the name of our contract, and we negotiated a new contract with them, and in checking that, what our peers are doing,
Right.
the same service. And, basically, we're paying the same rate for bag production as other towns, but, our disposal fees,
Similar with the disposal prices for like the Situate dump and us and our upholstered sofas costing. Do we see any
yeah, this.
economies of scale or anything in there? Can we get together and
So
do?
the contract right now for, it's a great question, great question. The contract right now for the MSW, the trash, is through Covan. They just changed the names to Rubon. That is trucked to the plant down in Wareham. It has to go directly to the incinerator because we're hauling the actual. You can't go to their other facility in Braintree. Whoever negotiated a great contract. It's about, with the environmental fees, it's about $110 a ton gate rate, even at Braintree, it's about $170 a ton. I think there's a year or two left in that, so every few years, it's negotiated, again. We have a very, very competitive rate as far as, disposal. The salt, the demo, other waste, and the other trailer is hauled to, another facility owned by Wind Waste, and that's bulky items, can't go to the burn plant. So the disposal rate is higher, it's about, with environmental fees in there, it's about $160 per ton.
To answer your question, there's a lot of parity with cost in most towns, but there is no kind of regional transfer station. We're all
I just didn't know if there was any opportunity to partner with another thing, you know, we're a consortium.
Yeah, they don't find that.
We want to get a price from you.
They try to do it with volume, so maybe you might get a little bit of a better rate if you have substantial volume. But the rate right now that Cohasset paying is excellent.
Okay. Yep.
Everyone else is-
And we do collaborate with the South Shore Recycling Consortium, so that's all the South Shore communities, kind of. We meet once a month and we do hazardous waste collections together and we, you know, talk about industry prices and.
Hi, Brian, Jean Codible 9373. This may be a silly question, not a great question, but I do wonder, is the current proposal envisions to fully segregate all costs, including indirect costs such as health insurance premiums for those who work at DPW, pension, OPEB, capital costs that currently come out of capital stabilization fund, oversight, including with the finances? Or is there gonna be like a mixing shared service model with the town?
So I'll let Chris take that.
So the answer is, the clear one that's in there now is benefits, because that's something that has to be charged, and just getting a benefit, medical, that kind of stuff.
That's shared.
No, that would be directly charged.
It's hard to.
That would be directly charged, and there's a line in the budget for that. It's a very small operation, so we're gonna have to, I think it's gonna be more of a shared service or a fee for service as needed. Because unlike the water and sewer plants, which are 24/7 operations, this is different. And I think we'll have to see how it goes over time. What an enterprise fund allows is, I mean, they already have their own electric meter, right? And the equipment there is already pretty much bought, and if that continues to be owned by the town, it's not owned by the enterprise fund per se. It's just, they're just gonna operate the center, right? So the benefit of the enterprise fund is it allows you to save money over time to pay for things like capital items and to charge them back. So if we have to upgrade the compactors and do some repaving, those things would be all covered with a long-term capital plan for that operation.
So your vision capital costs like the backflow breaks and the.
Yeah, that would be built in.
Comes out of the-
Correct, that would be the plan. We'll see how it develops. I mean, one of the few benefits of the fire is that a lot of the equipment that we're using now is new. So as long as we maintain it and keep it, it should last for a good long time. And there's still other opportunities for some innovation up there. I think anyone who uses it regularly has seen it's a smoother running operation. And we've talked about other ways we might be able to tweak some stuff up some of the equipment and flows to make it even easier. And again, I think those are things that Frank and Brian, the team have to assess. But because it's a small, and again, we'll see in terms of other things how it would develop. But for example, if we needed, IT to run up there and do some fixing, that would be kind of like a per diem kind of charge if you had to do something. But there's no, we don't have any history yet, really, right? So I don't envision it ever being very large, really, because they're a comparatively small operation. Though I think there'd be some things that might develop over time.
Mr. Ashton?
Yeah, Will Ashton, 125 Don Street. Can you explain a little bit, this follow-up to the last statement, explain a little bit more how the enterprise fund allows us to save differently than it would in the general fund? Because there are still capital projects coming out of the general fund every year. So how is this any different?
So what it would allow is the fees to get paid to stay in the fund, right? So savings could be built up over time, which is both the water and sewer enterprise funds have capital reserve accounts for that purpose. And the general fund does too. And the goal would be to create one, for the, enterprise fund for RTF at some point too. Again, we don't have any long-term, record for funding yet, so,
But the schools are not an enterprise fund.
no, they're covered,
They
the
have
schools are
capital-
covered, I'm sorry.
They have a capital stabilization fund that we put into place.
But that's, that's a different, that was a special voter approved, effectively tax supplement. And that money goes into a fund that's dedicated just for schools. The town has a capital stabilization fund for everything, right, for any purpose, and that's just coming out of general revenue. And then there's another road and sidewalk stabilization fund was also voter approved, and that money is also just earmarked for the roads and sidewalks. Those are the two special funds that were set up by voters with voter approval. The general capital fund just goes to any project in the town outside of water and sewer.
In general, are you talking capital stabilization?
Capital stabilization
Sorry,
helps.
you're using general stabilization fund interchangeably with capital stabilization fund, and general fund is operating and capital stabilization is capital.
Yes.
Yeah, can everyone, just a reminder, please identify yourself, Ms. Dugan.
Yeah, Katie Dugan, 100 Black Rock Road.
Thank you.
Budget.
I think we had a question.
Road. Last time you mentioned the yellow bags the town uses. How much are those yellow bags? Purchase. You said the
So-
blue bags were.
Yeah, the blue bags are made for manufacturer waste zero. The yellow bags are, I don't want to say a public way, everyone will put down yellow bags, but we buy them separately from a different manufacturer, and then we know that that's town waste. And you had asked the question at the last meeting about the indirect costs and what, Gene, and so I guess, we're gonna be tracking these things going forward. And where it makes sense to, have indirect costs come back to the enterprise fund, do that similar to.
Okay,
Water.
well, but the question I had last time was, since I'm in the enterprise fund as the water commissioner, the town pays for water and the town pays for sewer. And I know that there was a study done about the amount of trash that the town uses, because, you have them dumped into a separate container. And why isn't the town going to be paying for any of their trash? Because last time Mr. Senior said, oh, that's just going to come off of the fee for the stickers that the rest of the town is paying for, which does not kind of coincide with what an enterprise fund does. But if you're going to be doing that, why are you doing a revolving fund instead? Because it seems simpler. It seems like more, you want to do a revolving fund, because you're leaving out a lot of the aspects of enterprise fund. Do you understand what I said?
Yeah, so what's gonna have to start being tracked separately is the yellow bags, we'll count them, we'll charge, and again, I don't know what their capacity is, Frank, and Brian will have to.
But I thought.
And we
you
would-
had said
well-
you're ready.
Today, it's built into the cost of the operation because it's part of the general fund. Going forward, it'll have to be separate. We'll have to charge back the town for the yellow bags. That's what we'll have to do. Again, I don't know what they'll be. They'll be whatever the costs are, just like the other bags.
So, I mean,
So-
there's a lot of potential fees like that we could recoup. I mean, the boutique, which is a super popular thing up there, everyone loves boutique, but half of the C&D cost is unsubsidized boutique items that get thrown away ultimately when nobody takes them. So there are things like that, along with the yellow bags from the town buildings and things that we'll have to track and where it makes sense to do an indirect cost back to the town, or I don't know how you,
Well,
I didn't
it's
charge.
the
per
indirect
peak,
cost
but,
back to the
yeah.
town, Brian, because the indirect costs are paid by the enterprise fund to the town for the services the town provides. It would be like, how much is it going to cost the enterprise fund for the town to be doing the sticker sales? That would be one of them. This would be a direct cost for a utility that's being used. And, you could go by the weight that the town is using or whatever. But that should be a revenue item, not an indirect cost.
Do we have any idea of what the volume is of yellow bags?
So there's similar to the big blue bags, so the.
No, how many,
Probably about 10 to 15 yards a week.
10 to 15 yards a week, okay.
Pardon me, Whitney again, how does that put in perspective, please? I never knew about yellow bags not paying, being paid for it by the town, so please explain that a little bit more to the uninformed. How
So
yellow bag, how they work, what are the schools pay
so
for them?
the
What do you pay for them?
bags around the common, the village, you know, those are collected by DPW, the bags for trash in the offices, but in this building, in the town hall.
Schools?
The schools have their own dumpsters, so it does not include the schools. It's only town buildings, the other town buildings. So those are all going to yellow bags, and then those yellow bags go into, you know, we don't use white bags because, you know, we want to visually quantify, make sure that everybody's either using blue bag, pay as you throw, or the yellow bags. You know, if you see white bags, then that's it, you know.
And that's a percentage, Frank, of everything, the yellows are a percentage of everything, what is that, 20%? Is that?
15 to 20 yards.
Yards.
What is it compared to?
So.
An overflow, we're sorry.
So. Where can I? The container that's at the King Street building is a 6 yard, so picture 1 or 2 of those a week.
So the container that you throw, the blue bag trash in, that's 100 yard.
Thank you, that's a 100 yard container, and you got, so that's a 100 yard, it's Spartan made, and then those are 6 and 12. you said?
Yeah, probably from what I've seen.
About 18, it's about 20%, maybe, yeah. And right now, they're not paying for, they're paying their way, so to speak, is that correct?
Well, we're not an enterprise fund, we're not charging, yeah.
Oh, no, but I just mean in general, we pay, not being argumentative, I'm just trying to understand. I never heard about yellow bags, so that's another factor, I think it's another economic factor, revenues. If we approve this enterprise fund,
Yeah, so what
maybe
we,
they should go up anyway, because if we're gonna go up, they should be paying too, I would think. Because
What is they?
yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's.
It's breaking out of it, it's breaking out of it, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's breaking out of it, I say
So-
now.
So one thing on the waste,
Transparency.
yeah, the waste zero bags, I should clarify a little, the waste zero bags, they're actually, they're the manufacturer and the vendor, and they collect all of the revenue. They take their 41 cents per bag and they send the town a check, or, you know, they wire the money. They get a report each month on what the sales are and all that. The yellow bags are simply purchased from a manufacturer. We get the boxes and then we do it, but it was just so that we can identify.
All right, we're paying for those,
Yes,
obviously. we're
yeah,
paying
but
for
it's,
those.
it wouldn't be like a $2 or $4 charge. But, you know, the argument, I do get the argument, you know, we're paying for the disposal, so we could somehow quantify that disposal and figure it out.
For us to look at on how much, you know, maybe we can just start tracking on a weekly basis, how many yellow bags are going in. This is town waste, this is people walking through the village, putting their trash in. It's a service we provide. We don't require the shopkeepers downtown to do it. So we are doing it as a service. And let's track it and let's see what the cost is. To Ms. Jenkins' point about it should, if it's gonna be a direct cost to the enterprise fund, then it's a direct cost and we should address it as such.
Thank you. Next.
Nate, the gentleman here, we're gonna address.
Non-committal whole street. Yellow bags, blue bags, whatever, it's all gonna be. A determined amount, we know how much we're gonna have to pay for it, what I wanna know is, what I'd like someone to explain. In relatively simple language, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of going to the enterprise fund?
So it's, the enterprise fund allows us to run the RTF like a business, and it allows the fees
Allows us
to
to run
run it, it makes it, force you to run it like a business.
Your idea,
Right, so the fees then are linked to the call, to the actual.
why is that different than when it was in?
Because it's not that way now. So the problem is, so it's run as a department of the town, right? So.
Yeah.
And for a long time, the costs were kind of de minimis, it was just kind of off on the side. It's become a very complicated world. It's very regulated. The cost structure is very different. And we have to run it much more effectively than we ever did. I mean, one of the things about the fire is that it forced us to take a hard look at how it was being operated. And it wasn't being operated particularly effectively. And it was also costing a lot more than it brought in revenue. And for two reasons. One, because the fees hadn't really matched the cost. And the other is the way that the revenue comes in and on the general side of the town, it just goes into a big pool and gets split. So effectively, only a small amount of the actual revenue generated by the RTF is going back in to the RTF to support it. And as all budgets get tighter, all costs get harder. When this happened, we said, well, what are we going to do? We have to start repairing the center. And well, there's a lot of costs here. Should the taxpayers in general be paying for new equipment and stuff up there? Because the stuff that's been up there was there for many decades. And fortunately, insurance has paid for some of this, which is great, and it's helped. And we're saying, well, in the midterm, in the longer term, how do we keep this so it's not going to be a burden? I mean, because as other costs are going up, everything is going up, and this is one of those areas where it's very easy to match costs and expenses. I mean, revenue and expenses. And a little bit like if you come to a program at the library, right? Well, actually, that's not a good example because everything here is free. If you go to the senior center, if you go to a Pilates class, the money for the Pilates class goes into a revolving fund, and it pays for the class. It doesn't go back in the fund; it stays there. The schools have a lot of these funds. Field trips, for sports, for meals, for transportation, for kindergarten. And this is one of those areas that the state lets you set up in this way. Now, Mr. Jenkins mentioned a revolving fund. A revolving fund money comes in, and then it stays, and at the end of the year you have to kind of true it up. An enterprise fund lives, and enterprise funds have the flexibility because this is an ongoing enterprise, right? You can borrow money with an enterprise fund. You can pay. You can save money in the fund over time, and it can be operated again as a separate accounting tool. It's not going to be operated any differently. Public Works will still oversee it. The select board still sets the fees, but from a government accounting point of view, which is, I don't want to get any more in the weeds than that. It just makes it easier to account for and also takes it off the operating budget. So we don't have to worry ever about going forward. Do we have to raise taxes? Where do we find the money? And the fees can stay stable and set to the fund. Right now, one of the tasks that the board asked me to do was take a look at what happens. And right now, if we were to fully fund the enterprise fund, in the current system where the general revenues are kind of cut, we'd have to raise the base fee to $385 for a permit. Now, I don't want to recommend doing that. Okay, that's just silly because only 39% goes back to the operating of the town. Because the way the town revenues are broken out by a longstanding formula that predates me is once you pay for shared costs, insurance and things like that, the general revenues are split 61 go to the schools and 39 to the town. It's a longstanding formula. It's worked. So effectively that means 61% of the permit fee is effectively going into the general pot to be, well, it's all going to the general pot, it's going to be carved out. Because of the fact we've had to take a harder look at this. It's like, well, this is an area we probably should, before it becomes any more problematic, set it aside, keep it modest, and have the fees, tie back to it. A lot of other communities have done this. Situate's had that for a long time. Hanover just did it, much larger fees. And many other communities have kind of separated. By law, you're allowed to. It's one of those few areas, utilities are an area you can separate out. And that way, the people who use it will pay for it, right?
Are there any disadvantages to doing it, to going that way?
It's just another regulatory, I mean, it's the disadvantage, such as it is you have to maintain it for at least 3 years once you create it and see how it works. If you don't like it after that, you can get rid of it. It's just another accounting vehicle. I mean, it will require our accountants to keep, separate track of things because it's kind of small. I mean, the whole thing is only about $800,000 when everything is all in. I think it should be fairly easy to maintain, and it's not a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour operation like water and sewer. There's generally not emergencies on a Monday night or something. And the industry's changed a lot. Once upon a time, and we want to maintain the small town vibe of it, right? We want to be able to take oil. We want to be able to have the Girl Scouts up there, or the Boy Scouts, or the soccer team, and to maintain all of that, maintain the boutique, we have to find a way to keep the revenue in there to keep it supported. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those things we have to start cutting. And people don't want a half an RTF. They want it as it is, right? Well run, clean, with the boutique and the Scouts bottle collections and all of those things. In order to do that, we have to make sure the budget's gonna stay stable and contained. So it's another layer of government, if you want to call it that, except we're not gonna have to create a whole world around it. It's really, from our purposes, very simple. It's really just an accounting. It sounds more complicated. I mean, water and sewer have operated a long way, very differently, but they were very different. They were created many years ago. And again, those are 24/7 operations. They have elected commissioners. This doesn't need that. It's the select board will still have the direct oversight of fees. The public works will still oversee it, and there'll be staff that are dedicated to it, and they'll be paid for out of the enterprise fund. And we're gonna continue to innovate. I think also for a long time, honestly, it was also kind of a side operation. People don't necessarily want to work there, and we haven't had a dedicated person to run it who understands an RTF for quite a while. Frank was the first dedicated waste person that we've had, and my prior community was much larger, and we had a much bigger operation because we had 200,000 people and hundreds of thousands of tons of garbage. Ours is a tiny little place, right? And there's no economies of scale. So we have to make our own economies of scale. This is the way of doing that. So there really isn't any real detriment to this. The benefit is that it contains the costs, and if it doesn't work, we can eliminate it. The thing that we don't want to do is get rid of the RTF. And I don't want to have a budget crunch and say, well, we don't have to provide it, because we don't. That's one of the services you don't have to provide. You don't have to provide.
The impression the state said nothing.
No, they don't actually. Hull is an example. Hull got rid of it entirely. No, again, I'm not recommending it. I think it's, and Frank is reminding us how valuable it is because they don't give permits away anymore, right? He's in the industry. And we like to maintain it. And it's for the residents, right? Even if you have I know I've got a lot longer than a short answer. Even if you have a private pickup, maybe you had a party. Maybe the private pickup's having problems. Maybe you got extra trash to get rid of. To have that option is really good. And it's also good for the town. To be able to dispose of, and have a fallback for oil or anything like that. So we'd like to maintain a full service operation. To do that, we need better certainty of cost control for today and long term. And I think this really does that. It's really that simple. I mean, I know it sounds very complicated, but it's really just setting it aside as a separate accounting enterprise. And it doesn't really it's not going to really affect anybody else. Budget terribly. That's the plan. Hold on.
Just Haley did roll just put her hand up.
I heard the question at town meeting, and I heard it again about the difference between a revolving fund and an enterprise fund, remind me for enterprise versus revolving. And I have an answer, but I need you to tell me exactly. I think the difference is in enterprise fund, you can see bond or get a loan to fund, for example, capital improvements if you need to repair a backhoe. You can't do that with a revolving. Likewise, any interest earned off of retained earnings for an enterprise fund will stay with the fund. A revolving fund, it goes back into the general fund, so you sort of have that same issue you've been talking about. Are those the key differences? And is that correct?
For our purposes, yes. It allows you to have an ongoing enterprise sort of set aside from the budget where you can save, right? And that's, I think in this case, because it's going to be equipment. When you're just doing programs, they come and go, right? The revolving funds aren't meant to hold money for a long time. They can be big. The subject of big programs, but in this case, because the enterprise lives over time and those capital investments, those are the real difference. We could do a revolving, but just not it doesn't give you the same level. So,
Ms. Benson?
Diane Benson, Buckshot. Any thought given to, because I'm seeing it with neighbors, that more and more people are choosing to have trash pickup, a lot of trash trucks up and down the street. How does that impact any budgeting that you're doing going forward? If usage goes down somewhat significantly, younger people moving into town, they don't want to go to the dump.
We have to watch it over time, right? So
Right.
One of the realities is I think there's less private pickup than we think. And I think even people at private pickup do use the RTF from time to time,
Okay.
whether it's brush days, right?
Yep.
And by the way, to support a brush day and an oil pickup and the boutique, you have to have the rest of it, right? So the and again, there may be a time your Carter disappears or goes on strike. Look at what's happening in Kansas and other places of the public. As Frank has also mentioned, they're not giving away permits anymore. So we don't want to shut it down because if you shut it down, you're gonna lose it forever. Never gonna be able to turn it back. And I'm actually surprised when I got here. I came from a community that some people paid extra to have the garbage removed from the back of their yards. So you didn't have to see, not everybody, but some areas paid extra. Here, it always amazed me how many people, and by the way, this RTFs are everywhere, right? People will put that garbage in and take it themselves. And what it does allow you to do is control your waste costs. apart from the base permit fee, you throw away as much or as little as you want. You can recycle as much, hopefully as much as possible. And we're gonna continue to provide the services to help with that, right? So, and it provides those kinds of, those options, because always, I think even people with private pickup, I think they kind of use the RTF at some point for something.
Sure,
Mr.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna call on his trash, and he had his hand up, but if you have.
No, I just want to follow on the fees, so, I mean, I should have mentioned, when you had a question about oil, oil is at no charge, that's a service you provide, obviously recycling, plastic, cardboard, paper. As much as you want to dispose of, at no cost. Fluorescent bulbs.
Batteries will be coming online.
Right, at no charge,
Scrap metal? No, are we currently not charging for metal?
Correct.
yes,
That's big, because people go to the dump, they'll dump hundreds of pounds of metal,
Right.
and we're not charging for that right now.
right.
That's something we might want to look at.
So even if you have trash going out, so you can take that as your.
Yeah.
Fertilizer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Ashton?
First, Will Ashton, 125 Dome Street, to follow up on the benefits versus detriments of an enterprise fund. It's out of all that, it sounded like the only answer was that costs are going up, the RTF. And this allows us to raise fees to cover those. Which doesn't make sense to me, because you can raise fees and it goes in the general fund, but regardless. I think the RTF has only gone up about 7% a year the last 5 years. Nowhere near the top of the departments in the town in budget increases. So why are we singling it out to become an enterprise fund? Because we can,
Well,
or
and the answer is not just because we can because the state says you can. Okay, you can't do that for other things. You can't break out the senior center, or you can't do those kinds of things. And you can because it works that way, right? Because there's a very direct correlation between what you pay and what you get. It's very easily matched. You can't really do that in a senior center and nor should you, right? Or a library, right? They're set up that way also because there's a degree of unpredictability to it, right? We were very worried a few years ago when we went for the contract, which
so.
So there's an effort to say, there's a.
Not explaining.
Mr. Ashton, let him finish.
Well,
Mr. Ashton, let him
What
finish,
level of
please.
predictability does the enterprise fund change?
So
Everything you're
what,
saying is not a benefit.
what it allows you to do is keep the cost contained within that area too. So one of the things that's happened over time, and again, the biggest benefit is that because it works that in this model, the state, it's one of the areas where the state says this makes sense to be off budget, right? And when I say off budget, it's off the general tax budget, it's not supported by primary. Because it's logical, because there's a fee generation model and a cost model that ties together. And it also, there's a degree of unpredictability in the industry, which we saw, and we weathered it. Right? When glass recycling shut down, we didn't know what to do with that. Nobody in the state did. When
But again, what does that have to do with an enterprise fund?
well, because it allows the cost to be maintained just to the enterprise fund, so that we don't have to suddenly bail it out with a tax. All of a sudden, we have this wild variability. We have to pay health insurance, we have to pay pension costs, we have to pay electricity. In the enterprise fund, if costs go up, okay, let's say the CMAS shuts down. But these things sometimes happen, right? We have to suddenly raise fees. Now we have to, if you're in a general budget, all of a sudden you're starting to pull tax revenue. Right? You don't want to do it, pull it from other programs. In this case, it's like, okay, you dump garbage, the fee will be limited to people who use the plant, but you may change your operations. This is an area, and again, I'm not suggesting it's going to radically change tomorrow. I'm not saying that. But I think Mr. Marchione could talk about many opportunities over his years where we're seeing this wild variability. And one of the things that's continued to change is the recycling side of it. We want to continue to recycle products. It's not free anymore. I mean, it costs to dispose of almost all of these things. And we want to have people that really run the operation on a regular basis. We've never. It's a model that's both creating a accounting vehicle, but also to dedicate staff to it to really focus on it, and that's their job. In the
That's not a
DPW.
difference. You're swaying into things that aren't.
Well, but it's part of the whole look that we're.
It's not though.
Well,
If they work there now, they'll work there on an enterprise fund.
so I don't know that the town in the long term could support the RTF if it's on the general fund for the long term. I think if people are saying.
Because the costs are going up.
Because it's an area that we don't have to provide the service. Okay, we don't have to provide it.
Is it because the costs are going up?
It's because costs in general are going. Okay, and in order to preserve this unique feature. This maintains its viability. Because in a budget cut situation, and look, I'm not telling you anything that no one's seen around us. There's budget challenges all over. This is an area to where to preserve it, we can put it off to the side and say, if people want it, they can pay for it and can keep it. Because on a cutting room floor, okay, if in a let's say in a few years' time, we're whatever, the tariffs have gone up, inflation's gone crazy. These are one of the things that we'll end up starting to have to cut. Because we're not gonna cut back on the schools, and we're not gonna shut down the library. Stoneham just shut down its library. I don't ever want to be in a situation like that. Didn't have to do with an RTF, it had to do with their budget challenges. This removes the variability, but it also allows this to be operated for the long term separately and maintained for the long term.
The gentleman in the black shirt, he hasn't had a question.
Thanks. Felix Schilling, 439 King Street. To that, I understand with the accounting vehicle for the fund, even though I think like there are probably also other options to account for that separately without the whole fund. But on the other side, if we have the fund, then we also have additional fees. Right?
Well, there's going to be additional fees either way. I want to be clear. So the fees are going to have to go up either way. Okay.
But if
But I'm sorry. Go ahead. No. So well, if right now the fees do not cover the operation. The goal is to have the fees cover the operation. So we're not using other revenue. Right? So it's fee based, and the budget that's been presented covers it by permits and it covers it by bags and a little bit from bulky waste and things, which really just covers costs. As Brian pointed out before, the two major revenue sources are the permit fees, and the bag fees, the paper throw, which is what the state's designed it for, right? So and also allows you to control your costs from the bag fees. There are only two ways to keep that money segregated. One is with an enterprise fund, which is, and we pointed out before, it also allows you to save money and pay for capital improvements separately, or a revolving fund like we do with some of the other programs. That's just not as robust. It could be done. A revolving fund could be done. It's just not. It doesn't provide you the long-term savings capability. It doesn't provide you the long-term ability to make capital improvements, which are going to have to be done over time at the RTF. Which means that the general taxes will have to pay for this, whether it's a new, and I think. It's not astronomical, right? But every $40,000 or $50,000 matters. I mean, that's a police car. It's improvements at a school, or it's new windows. So and right now the fees just don't link. There's no linkage to that, to the actual cost. I mean, they come in, people pay them, but they go into a big pot and they get cut up. So it allows the fees to be tied back to the costs and takes it off to the side where I think it belongs. From an operational point of view, from an accounting point of view.
But the fee change would be either basically everyone who lives in Grassland pays a little bit more for the sticker, or the few people that use the fund pay much more.
No, it's actually the other way. It's the other way around. So if we create a fund, the fee will be base. There'll be a base fee, because if it doesn't get created, the fees will have to go much higher because the money gets spread out across the whole budget, and in order to get enough money. We can't raise taxes, right, in mid-year. And we can't raise taxes more than 2.5%. Those are the caps. So when you build a budget, you have to look and see what the last thing in the room is. And quite frankly, the RTF is right down at the bottom of the last thing we're going to fund. And to keep it, to make it a continued viable operation, it needs to have its own existence. Otherwise, the conversation will be pivoting in the not too terribly long future about whether we should have it at all. Because this inflation's real. It affects the government like everybody else, and people, we've tried to keep a lean, a budget that's tight and focuses on what people want. And there are alternatives. Unfortunately, again, I don't recommend getting rid of the RTF. At the same time, it's not my decision. It's going to be
Who would ever recommend that?
well. If
You're like saber rattling.
no, it's not saber rattling. There are budgetary realities that are not secret. Okay. And the bottom line is that the RTF is at the bottom of the priority list.
Why?
Right next to the town hall, the old town hall. Well, I mean, you have to.
Okay, all right. So let's get.
Why is it
let-
the bottom? Well, wait a minute.
Because it's a service the town doesn't have to provide. It's not required. It's not legally required.
Okay,
And there's alternatives to provide. That's why it's at the bottom.
okay. So I'd just like to make one comment and then Ms. Dugan, I see that you have your hand up. The enterprise fund will provide complete transparency for the costs and the revenues for the RTF. Mr. Ashton asked what's the benefit. That is the benefit of an enterprise fund. And I would think in this community, as we have heard over the last several weeks, a cry for transparency, and there's nothing more transparent than the financial statement of an enterprise fund for the RTF. And it's a service, and we have discussed not having an RTF and what that would do to the community. None of us want to do that. It's not even, doesn't even cross our minds because there are other things that we can get to. But don't conflate fees with the enterprise fund. The only crossover is with an enterprise fund, the sticker will be lower, the back cost will be lower. Without an enterprise fund, the sticker will be higher and the back cost will be higher. That's it. And what everyone always wants to know is, what's it gonna cost? With an enterprise fund, it's gonna cost me $150 to use the RTF and park in public places. And without, based on some projections, it's gonna cost me $385. So as I make most decisions in my household, when it comes to money, I love dollars. And if we get transparency for the RTF as an output of that, I don't understand the concern about that. I would think everyone would say, oh, we get it. And Ms. Jenkins, I know we have some things that we continue to need to work out, and I thank you for bringing them to our attention, and we'll look at that. But basically, that's what we're talking about, okay? We don't have to get into, pricing. I mean, you know, the prices are gonna go up. We have to cover our costs. We have to cover our back costs. We have to cover our bulky disposal costs. I can't think of anyone who would want to do that in their own household. So, I just wanted to say that Ms. Dugan was next.
My question is about clarity around enterprise fund. So I understand the benefit of segregating the operating expenses and us being able to manage that separately. I still need, and what you referenced, Chris, was benefits electricity, but then you also mentioned equipment owned. Equipment owned is a capital expenditure, and when we talk about water and sewer enterprise funds, they actually have the ability and do raise debt and do cover their capital costs. Coming from capital's perspective, it's not a huge annual expense, but if I would look back historically, it could probably range anywhere from 100,000 to, 300,000 if it's a big front loader. At annual town meeting, we just did $100,000 of new equipment to replace some stuff that needed to get done. So are we now talking about covering that $100,000 to $300,000 annually in capital expenditures out of the enterprise fund and freeing up additional space in a very tight capital budget that covers schools?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a major benefit.
That's a huge
That's
benefit.
number one.
$300,000, $100,000 to $300,000 on a $2 million budget is, one big project or, 2 to 3 small ones from a capital perspective.
Yeah, maybe we should lead with that. That's the major benefit.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Grady.
And I have a question for Mr. Senior too. Chris, what are we budgeting for the RTF annually?
About $800,000.
All right, so what happens?
How much was that?
It's kind of, well, the projection with the benefits and all built in is about 800.
It's about 1 to 1.5% of the entire town budget.
So what happens?
So we also, by the way, we also put $200,000, we stuck 200,000 or proposed 200,000 in the budget because we weren't sure how this was gonna work and then, and I don't think that has to happen. So I think that'll come off too. So I don't think we have to do any backstopping. After having had some great public conversation, I think we have a clearer vision of how this all works now. And I think the permit fee is all going into one place and the bag fees going to one place. We can make this work.
I thought the second fee went to.
No, can you just wait to be acknowledged, because Mr.
How about raising your hand, Mr. Ashton? Mr. Ashton, you're interrupting.
Me to be called on, he hasn't
Sure.
spoken, so he'd like to make a statement, thank you.
Thank you, since we don't have nameplates tonight, David Brooks, select board, living on Beasley Street. If we go back to when the fire happened at the RTF, a couple things about this, I don't think people know. In that we were very lucky that as dangerous as it was, as bad as it was, that it didn't turn out to a catastrophe that it could have been. At the time when the fire happened, if you remember, it was a very dry season. There hadn't been a lot of rain, and it was very windy that day. There happened to be, from what I was told, a few firefighters on a call on 3A that were dealing with the dead deer when the explosion happened, and so they were able to hear it like most people and then see the smoke, and they were able to act on it quickly. And so instead of getting there, or if somebody waiting for a call from somebody from Cedar Ledge, fire department was there very quickly. The wind had been going in a different direction from where it was. We would not be calling Cedar Street anymore, because there wouldn't be any more cedar on the street. It would have gone the other direction. It probably would have wiped out Cedar Ledge Village. It probably would have wiped out the tennis club. It probably could have gone further if the fire department didn't get there as fast as they did and control the fire. And from looking at it after the fire, one of the things that was incredible about it was from where the building was and it exploded. The trees behind it were barely charred. So all of it came forward, and of course it caught to the other buildings. Now, from that, when the town looked at it and went forward from the buildings and the damage, dealing with the insurance company and the like, that's when the whole relook at the RTF happened. So you can call it a reimagine, a reset, whatever. And so that's where everything started to look at how can we do things better here. Now, if you remember from going to the RTF for the last 20 years, if you've been here for a long time, you know, when you had to get your cardboard and get rid of it, you had to throw it in this laundry basket that one of our town hall employees would have to take and then dump. It was the biggest misuse of labor that you could ever imagine, but it was done because of safety reasons. They couldn't allow, you know, people to do this. So it was keeping with safety rules, but it was an inefficient way of doing it. So by getting all the new compactors out there and doing it all, it's a much more efficient system. It frees up our employees to actually do other things up there. You know, they hired the new head of it so that they're gonna be able to look at the contracts and everything going forward. And then what came out of that and those creating those efficiencies that everyone can enjoy is to look at, okay, well, how do we know how we're gonna manage it, but how are you going to be able to pay for it? And that's where an enterprise fund comes in. And it's a strategic budgeting tool by towns in order to keep all the costs and the revenue in that one bucket like a trust fund, so that that's where it stays. And it's done so that when you're paying the money for the pay-as-you-throw, it's going into that bucket for the RTF. It's not going off to other programs. It's not going up to streets, schools, everywhere else. And then the other thing that was done with that was to also make sure that any revenue that was going to go into this in an enterprise fund, that it was not going to take away from other parts of the budget. So specifically the schools, there was worry out there that, oh, you're going to be taking money away from the schools. That's not happening. The schools have been made whole with the enterprise fund. So when the enterprise fund, if it's voted on, it'll be on its side, the school will be made whole, and then there you go. So other towns use it. We've heard Situate use it for their RTF. Situate even has their harbor and an enterprise fund for their slips and things like that. The main things you'll see in the town that uses enterprise fund, obviously water and sewer, the two most popular, you know, the obvious ones that you have for obvious reasons. And then when you get to the other ones, you can have your harbor, you know, your RTF. And then finally on it, there has been some talk about, well, why don't we just do, you know, pick up everywhere? Well, if people want to shut down the RTF, I give you Exhibit A, Republic. They've been on strike since July 1st. It is now, what is it, September the 3rd, and they haven't been picking up trash since July 1st. So I give you Exhibit A if you want to go and get a contract like any other town. We will have trash piling up everywhere in town, and no one will know what the hell to do with it. So that's really not a great option for Cohasset. There's other potential possibilities. You have to remember, we're a small town. We only have about 2,500 homes in town. We're not going to get the buying power that a city's going to get. There's only a few companies that do the trash hauling service. You're not going to get the best price on it, you know? So I think those are realities that we have to look at as well. So anyway, long story short, that's what an enterprise fund is. It's a strategic budgeting tool. to try and create the buffers in the budget so that we're not offsetting that money, having that money to offset the RTF. The RTF will pay for itself when you use it.
Do we know what proportion of the 2,500 by permits?
By permits, how many people get the total?
So,
So I think it's
it's about 8,000 stickers.
Yeah,
There's-
Multiple vehicles.
Yeah, but there's about 3,000 primaries though, so almost everybody in town,
Okay.
not everybody,
Yeah,
but
but
there's about
most.
3,000 primary
Yeah.
stickers.
God knows, I got three.
Somebody has 7, somebody goes all out, that's 7, good for
Yeah,
them.
I'll take a lot of freight.
Okay, I just, before I see 3 hands, Mr. Ashton, and then we'll go that way. Brian, is there anything more in your presentation? that
We
you
just
wanted
had
to
some of
go
the
through?
upgrade pitches that I think Frank talked to, but, you know, in the interest of time, I want
Okay.
to answer questions.
Okay. Mr. Ashton,
I just had 2 follow-ups to what Mr. Senior, Mr. Frog said. You said that all revenue would go to the enterprise fund, but I think the last meeting, the second sticker fee goes to the general fund, not the enterprise fund. Is that correct?
Well, that was the discussion, but some of the feedback we've gotten from that meeting and all is that it should just all go to the enterprise fund. So I think that's what we're gonna talk about tomorrow night, but that's, I've reworked the budget to include that, because it seemed to make sense, and that was part of the feedback.
So then that would mean you could lower the fee if more down.
Potentially, yeah, again, we'll talk about more tomorrow with the select board, but there's options to,
Next week.
Tuesday.
yeah, next Tuesday, I'm sorry, I'm all confused, I'm thinking it's already Monday, it's Wednesday, next week, next Tuesday.
My second one was about making the schools whole. So I think I may not understand it correctly, but if we take the revenue out of the general fund, it would decrease the school budget by some amount, and we said we make them whole, so we're gonna give them some budget back if we do an enterprise fund, is that right?
So we did this year, the schools received a 3.85% increase, the town only 2.2, because I shifted. The 152,000 that would have been the school's share of lost revenue. Out of the town side into the school side. Didn't, stand up and trumpet it, but we did, and the schools were well aware of it, we had conversations and said. So it's in there now, the enterprise fund didn't happen, and the revenue is now still coming into the general fund, so, but it's still there, and that would be, protecting it going.
So my question, that was just the premise, the question then is. Why would if we didn't go to an enterprise fund, why would the fees be higher if it's in the general fund? Wouldn't you just take the money back from the schools that you already gave them? And then the fee would be the same in either way, in either scenario.
The problem is that there are other costs that went up in the budget too. So, there's been inflation, we negotiated some very successful contract to get the police out of civil service. There's a number of things that have been done, and costs in general. This was this allows us to buy budget time for the schools and the town. For hopefully a little time. That was the plan for and also to allow the enterprise fund to operate a little bit more business oriented. So, no, it's not that simple, and I don't want to start taking money out of budgets either. I don't want to have to start going through that, if we don't have to, so. We're built for this year. This year's 100% cut.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, 2 questions. First, just to understand it correctly, so if we do the transfer fund, we just pay the increased sticker fee and no other fee. Because in the town hall, there were talks of like $800 per family or something like that. There's just $150.
There's a permit fee that you pay for every bag you use. So, right. So those, it's the same concept, just, yeah.
Okay.
And again, if you pay for the individual things you throw, if you throw away an air conditioner or something,
Yeah.
but no, there's no other separate fee.
Okay, and then the second question, have you thought about increasing the bag fee? Because my understanding is that, much more than that.
We went from right now it's $1 and $2, the plans go to 2 and 4, and you've seen that, it's actually just to cover the cost. You really have to have fees that have some reasonable relationship to the service, and we want to keep them as tight as possible. We're not looking to make a profit on anything, right? We're just not gonna pay for it.
Yeah, well, just to give an example, we use probably pretty little trash. I would say like 8 bags a year or so.
It's great.
So like 86% is fixed cost. Whereas my neighbor uses a lot of bags. I don't know if they use 6 or 7 times as much trash, they just pay twice as much.
Well, the thing with the permit fee is that we need a base number just to have it exist, right? Whether you use it for 8 bags or 80 bags or 800 bags, the center still has to exist. So it's like, you know, everyone pays the same to access, I don't know. It's like the base entrance fee. It's like the base water fee, I guess, is one example. It's a base fee you pay for water, period. And that's what a permit fee effectively is for the RTF. It's a base fee just to have the thing operating to have access.
But I mean, you can justify low numbers.
Yeah, but then we want to keep it as low as possible too. We want to keep it as low. And the goal is to keep this at, you know, as low as possible.
Just that, the point of clarification, it's been said a couple of times, it's gonna pay for itself.
That's the goal.
You also said it's a 3-year commitment. And you did a lot of research, everybody did a lot of research to set these fees. Can you tell us tonight, accepting any outrageous occurrences, storms or major issues? Can you tell us tonight that it's gonna pay for itself, it's gonna break even over these 3 years?
Is it gonna break even, Frank?
So my goal is to operate the station on a profit mode. That doesn't mean we have to raise prices, crazy raise them, and make a lot of money profit. But if you want to operate in the profit mode, then you're prone to failure. So you have to take into consideration that, like death and taxes, there's shortage of capacity and price increase. That's every year. That is the industry we live in. The transfer station that you all own is an equalizer, okay? Even if I use it maybe once or twice a year to get rid of a mattress and I pay the $150 or $200 for the permit fee, I'm well below the market to get rid of a mattress. Somebody comes to my home and pick it up. I lived residential trash collection, okay? In my private life, Cohasset was a very tough town to break into because of the transfer station. Very smart consumers, and you have a beautiful facility. The upgrades make it even better available to all the residents. And it also provides you for long-term stability. Yes, Republic is a great example, but it doesn't even have to get that crazy. There's always a shift and always a buyout of small residential contractors, right? Because you work very hard, get to a certain number, you flip your company. What happens then is the price for collection goes up, and those costs will increase much faster than the yearly price increases that we may or may not put on for the commodities coming into the station. You know, when you have private collection, you could see 2 or 3 price increases per year. That's not our goal. Our goal is to operate it as efficiently and as safely as possible to provide long-term use. And I think you've seen the changes. There's a plan. It's not, we just didn't do it just because we're planning things out. I worry every night in this business, okay? I worry about shortage. I worry when the truck goes out. That's the life of being in the trash business. So we don't want you to worry. We want you to have faith in what we're doing here. I don't know enough about town government or funding, but to me, there's a lot of folks that I've talked to in the short time that I've been here. They have a lot of P&L responsibility in their private work. This is what this is giving you, right? This is giving you someone to watch the P&L of the operation. That's the best you can get, right? So you monitor. I mean, I weigh bags all the time. I see every invoice and we watch, we talk as a team. The team is excellent. I mean, the staff in place, we have 1 full-time employee and 2, possibly 3 part-timers, myself. And technically, it's not operating 7 days a week, but it is, right? So we do things Monday, Tuesday when you're not there. We call on Thursdays, we repair, and then we're open 4 days to the public. So we have an operation that's 7 days a week. And maybe more than anything else, we see the general public. You know, we get feedback. We want a sense of community, whether it's the boutique, the scouts. The town just invested $800,000 to pay that area to clean it out, to move, and logistically, we're moving things out of the way, so we can have a nice flow to get in and out, but the folks that want to sit and talk, they're off to the side. It's safe.
It'll be safer.
It'll be safe, because it's tough. I mean,
So what I'm hearing is that yes, it's going to pay for itself, break even, but that may, there may be a necessity to raise fees as we go. Is that what you're saying? But you already did a study where you know how much it costs, let's say over the past 3 years. You know what increases have been kind of built in over time, and you set the fees accordingly so that it pays for itself. So you can't tell us that
I
barring any
can't,
extraordinary.
that's a great question, but I can't, you know why? Because unfortunately, in the industry, there's very limited disposal facilities. Right, so if one shuts down, like one just merged with another, okay, in the recycling commodities. If there's a price increase, we'll eat it as much as we can, but the next term, the next year, the next cycle for the fees to be adjusted, we might have to tweak that. There's no way we can, you wouldn't want us to set fees for 3 years out when we know that the facilities are going to increase every year. So when we have a contract per se, yes, we can stabilize that portion of it, but there's so many commodities. I think we have maybe 15 waste streams coming in, and it's almost impossible to lock in a price, a disposal price for all of those, because the end facility will not give you that.
So the employees you have are not cost shared anymore with DPW the way some of them were years ago.
Well, I think we want to keep them all in the.
I'm not suggesting anything other than that.
No,
Just the model that you're using and the first thing you're doing is. There are two.
Okay, Mr. McCarthy had his hand up.
Kevin McCarthy, 155 Thayer Oaks Lane. I just want to get clarity on the basic sticker. So is this gonna still be when you buy a sticker, it's for the beach and for the RTF? And so, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so there won't be any situations where you buy a sticker just for the beach alone and not that, so this is how it is maintained.
Same,
Nothing changing.
Yeah,
all
okay.
facilities sticker.
It's gonna be awesome. And then just my second sort of point is I think on the $75 second charge for the sticker, just for what it's worth, I think that would help gain a lot of support, gain support in the community if they stayed in the RTF, particularly since the RTF is gonna be picking up its own capital expenditures and so forth. That's a justification for that, just for what it's worth.
Yep, gentleman in the back, did you have a question?
Yeah, Charles Kennedy, 664 Route 3A. My question is for if you go forward with a fund plan, would you, with the solar panel array, would that income generated from that, would that be on the side of the transfer station or of the town?
Yeah, so that's a long-term contract that was set up a long time ago, so that's not part of the RTF at all, that's on the old cap landfill. And the savings that are generated from that now go to the schools, they help pay the lighting bill for the streetlights and for all town facilities.
How long ago was it made? Is it?
We're in 27th year of 20 years.
20 years, so we're gonna dump in 20 years. How will we deal with that then? Will that
What?
be dealt with?
The solar array?
So I think we have the option to
Is that
purchase or to have, renegotiate with the lease and continue, but so the savings generated on that go, again, split between schools and the town. And it's not part of the RTF budget, other than we have to do monitoring the cap landfill that's underneath it. And that portion under the enterprise fund would stay with DPW as it's not part of the operation per se.
Kelly Kinetic from Paul Street. I just had a simple question about trash versus recyclables. And I noticed in Hingham, in town, they have deposits for recyclables, say in front of the coffee shop. And I think if it would be cheaper to dispose of recyclables rather than trash, we should have those collection sites near trash cans, particularly all in town, because that trash can is always overflowing, as is all the trash at the beach. So if we could be recycling a lot more at the beach and in town, and any basket collections
What's more expensive to get rid of?
Well, it's, I mean, it's a good thought. We talked about it a lot in the past. The problem with that is, people don't always throw their recyclables in the trash, and you get a lot of commingled trash with the recyclables. And, staff who are collecting the bags, I think there might be, 100 bags of them. They're not sorting through that trash to, there's a recyclable, here's trash.
But I
For health
think
and
if the
safety.
basket was really distinguishable, that it's for recyclables, I think everybody is used to doing that wherever we go.
And you know, children.
Unfortunately.
I don't think children sound.
There's got to be corrected, that behavior
Yes,
needs to be corrected.
yes,
Like,
yes.
like,
Fathers.
all over town, that gets collected in a plastic bag and gets dropped on the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Drives me
Just
crazy. I've got
Crazy.
myself, I go nuts. Carrying.
Outside the.
Let's clutch our pearls.
Outside the basket
Yeah,
at the beach.
we have another question from the audience.
So I think that's a great idea in theory, as someone who volunteers a lot of hours sitting in a very hot shed sorting returnables with my younger scout children.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
Sort those returnables, and the law is such in Massachusetts that if it is a liquor of any sort that's now in a can, which proliferate everywhere, it's not returnable. So the children have to go through and sort out a ton. And it's very time consuming. I think that, and gross and sticky. I think that if you add in that aspect, it just gets worse and worse and really becomes an encumbrance on the kids. The scouts have been talking about a way to try to like handle this more effectively in whatever the next iteration is, but I just want to use this opportunity as a PSA to like remind people about what's returnable. It's recyclable, but they have to be sorted differently, so Brian, you can't get a deposit, you can't get money from it, you just have to throw it in the mail, and so it just adds a lot of extra time.
Combination too, or if it was, yeah.
Another rationale.
Well, Sandy Beach, I think, did a pretty good job in a public service campaign about asking people to take back their pizza boxes and not, jam them in or leave them beside. And I think this is a very good message
Leave no
to
trace.
the community,
Yeah.
to take your recyclables with you and don't dump everything into an overflowing trash can. I mean, Sandy Beach says, take your trash with you. It's very simple, and it's gonna be hard to change human behavior. I hear you on the dog food bags, it's disgusting, but, I don't know if we want town employees, I don't know if we wanna have a separate bin, because as soon as the trash can is full, trash will go into the recyclable. It's just human nature, they're just gonna throw it in there.
Contamination.
I think Canada does a very good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe,
They've got a
They
great-
must have better manners.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins?
Couple things I think consulted tonight. The thing is that, when it was first started, it was 50-50. That's what it was. The user paid 50, the town paid 50. This was 30 years ago. I don't believe we took it to the dump and buried it. I don't think there was any charge. I don't think it was a sticker. That's how this whole thing started. I wasn't really supportive of it, but it came along with the bags, so I supported it. It shouldn't be 100%. The users of the dump should be paying 100% of the cost. Now, to get the exact numbers we have, you can't get them right now. They may be off. We may make a profit of $100,000 first year, or we may lose $100,000. But as soon as we get the actual numbers, we'll have real numbers, and then we'll know what the cost is. That's number one. My problem too is, we have a consultant that's done good work for us, but how are we gonna protect the users of the facility against, how should I say it, too much expenses that we don't know about? I mean, the consultant has done a wonderful job, no question, but I don't think we need a full-time consultant to dump.
We don't have one anymore. We hired Frank full-time, he's not a consultant anymore.
Not for what?
We don't have a consultant anymore. We turned Frank into a full-time employee for less money. I followed your methods. I got it for less money, full-time.
Oh, don't tell him that.
I'm sorry. Don't let the cat out of the bag. Yes, he works towards the garage, yes.
The salary is gonna be split.
Well, we'll see. I think Frank's spending most of his time at the RTF, so.
50% of this time.
Right now it's 100% of his time, so
I know right now, it's fine, I have no problem. In the future, Brian needs the help.
that'd be great.
Hands up at this point, and I just kind of want to summarize a few takeaways I personally had from our first, forum. You know, we heard the concern and about the second sticker going to the general fund. And we will have models that the full select board will look at on Tuesday evening. See how not doing that will impact our financial modeling on this subject. We've heard Ms. Jenkins talk about direct and indirect costs, and I think that's a very valid topic for us to incorporate into our financial plan. Specifically the yellow bags, and we'll start getting counts on that, so we know exactly what it's going to cost us. To reiterate Mr. Farag's point, the enterprise fund is a financial tool, okay? And fees are separate. Fees are separate, so the board will be discussing and voting on fees on Tuesday evening for stickers for next March, for the, the turnaround, our annual, sticker renewal. We'll be voting on bag fees, we'll be voting on the bulk waste fees. And then we will have town meeting. And we'll have the enterprise fund on the town warrant for the town to vote on. And depending upon that vote, we may or may not have to come back and revote fees.
There's majority or half to get that through, Ellen. Yeah.
I honestly, I'm not sure, but we will find out.
Well, pardon my ignorance, in May it was voted down, I guess, and that was a simple majority, or that was a 2/3, you needed 2/3 that in the price was through, that's.
I honestly, I don't remember.
Anybody remember?
I think
Oh,
it
well,
was the third.
I wasn't there, I missed it. No, no, big deal. I'm.
The majority was against.
So
Yeah,
it's simple
I
majority.
know we had a count, we had an actual count.
I just was curious with the 2/3, was it 2/3 necessary to have it go through?
Majority vote.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you, Kate,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Kate.
Pardon my, not looking at it,
Okay.
I look for it, I couldn't find it, right?
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Thank
Okay, so, I've personally have found these forums productive. We can't do our job without listening to people. This is a topic that people are very interested in and passionate about. I want to thank everybody who's here tonight, everybody who came before. And if you have any further questions, you can reach the town manager, come to our meeting Tuesday, or email any of us.
Somebody brought up after the first meeting about seasonal employees and whether there was going to be 6-month pass or something for that, but I mean, that starts monkeying around where.
Yeah, so we have an FAQ, and I encourage everybody to visit the website, there's an FAQ sheet still up there, yes, there's an FAQ sheet with that particular question, a bunch of other ones. And the answer is no, there's definitely gonna be no difference, it's basically,
Buddies the waters.
yeah, the sticker cost, and then, the gentleman who uses 8 bags pays less than someone who uses it all year round.
And do we have to give any money to Sandy Beach Association because we selling these sticker? Nothing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but yes, Sandy Beach has never received any money from the town, all facility sticker sales.
No,
Is
right,
that
but
correct?
that gives us the ability to go into the Sandy Beach Park.
Yeah, the town owns a lot.
That was-
Sandy Beach Association.
Yeah, tell you something.
Yeah, it's not just Sandy Beach, it's Government Island, it's Rocky
Right,
Beach, it's
yeah.
other areas,
Yeah.
Parker Avenue, that require, so it's.
Yeah, Sandy Beach, trust me, I've done that once, I think.
I love them. I know.
For the beach portion, not the parking lot, yes.
They keep that going there.
For different
Yeah.
reasons. They all different.
Okay, all right, so at this point, since we opened the meeting as a select board meeting at 7:55 PM, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second, Mr. Farag. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.